Yeah, and when I say can't give up, I guess you can, but failure is just a frame of mind, an opportunity.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited to have you on the show. I know you're super busy running multiple companies and doing all kinds of stuff in your community. Before we jump into your companies, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and kind of, what is your background that got you to the Daily Java?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. I'm a Texan, a proud, born and raised Texan. I know that might not seem prudent, but for the story, it somewhat is. But born and raised here, and I just always, my whole life, kind of always figured that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had an uncle who was an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, who made and lost millions. And you think I would have learned from that, you know what, I think I want more stability, but instead I was like, that looks pretty cool. But I went to college and graduated and got back to Texas as quick as I could. And instead of taking an opportunity at the Federal Reserve Bank or something like that were options at the time, I decided to partner up with a buddy of mine, a high school buddy of mine, and start our first business. And realized quickly I didn't know much about business. That what I learned in school, though helpful, it definitely didn't set me up to win. Back then they didn't have entrepreneur classes and things like that, like they do now, that I think are very beneficial for the younger generation coming in. But I'm just a Dallas boy that started my first business back then, and then sold that or got out of that one with my buddy when I realized this wasn't the type of business I wanted in. I started kind of a printing company that rolled into my current company just by an awkward, weird chance. There's always opportunities. It's just learning which bus to get on, because just staying at the bus stop, people that want to jump on every opportunity, sooner or later, you're going to realize there's one every day. You just need to pick then the one that is going to really get you where you want to be. But I'm married for 27 years this year, 2 great kids. We're empty nesters, and we have been enjoying being empty nesters. That's been kind of fun. And just giving me actually also a little more time to really focus on growing my business, which has been really cool.
Wonderful. So first business you knew you were going to be an entrepreneur right away out of college, right? Yeah. This is something you're going to do. You're going to be your own guy. You're going to be responsible for your own insurance. You're not going to ask anybody for help on this little journey. And obviously, the first one didn't go as planned, right? So that was just shut it down, or did you have to exit that company?
No, I just exited. What it was an antique store with my best friend and his family. And I remember my strategy teacher, who was one of my favorite teachers in college, even told me going out, hey, being the outside member of a family business can be very difficult. No. They treat me like family. I get Christmas presents from them. I spend the night over there all day. It'll be fine. And it wasn't that they didn't. The problem was I would go home. He would go home, and then he'd come back next day and say, hey, we at dinner, we all discussed this, and we're going to do this. And hey, at dinner, and it's like, okay, this isn't what it was. And quite frankly, it was an antique store. I knew nothing about antiques. Right. I was trying to learn, and I love meeting people. So at the antique store, you might get 2 to 3 people come in during a day. And then maybe if you're having a good week, you have one sell a week, and that's enough to, make everything go forward. And that was not I realized quickly that just wasn't going to really work for me. That wasn't what I was in for. Doing. So, I exited, we shook hands and all that. It was good exit. I had no skin in the game either. It was one of those, young and dumb things where, oh, I have a business. Well, how much should you put into it? Zero. Well, what are you doing? I put in man hours was what I was putting in. And so it was good to get out for them, and it was good for me. It opened up the opportunity for me to really open my first real business, which was a printing brokerage. And we started doing coupon books. And we did coupon books, and the coupon books was actually an idea of another buddy of mine. He went to Texas A&M, and they had these coupon books with 300 plus advertisers. And just like a normal entrepreneur starting out who doesn't know anything, we got the thing, and it's like, well, we'll do it at SMU, Southern Methodist University here in Dallas. And, sure, we're not going to get 300, but we'll get half of that. Surely we can get half on our first tryout. And it was funny. It was a complete and utter failure. Only got 20 people to advertise, and that was really pounding the pavement and everything. And he's like, okay, you know what? We kind of partnered. And he's like, I'm out. And so I still had the brokerage, the printing brokering, and the coupon books. And I just worked hard and realized that this was a long-term play. And I just loved it. I loved meeting people, the sales, and then and there was competition. But just like that's when I really realized you have to have a differentiator. You need to be able to do something different than your competition that you can exploit. And we did that. I figured out what that was. And we wound up being the largest coupon book at SMU, UNT, TCU, also UT Arlington, as well as all these different office complexes. We were the largest. And so it had really ballooned and grown, but I was basically a one-man show because I didn't know how to expand. I didn't know how to bring on people and all that, which, I can do now. Looking back at it, if I knew now, back then I'd be able to really scale it. But that
hiring back then was a lot harder.
What?
Hiring people back then was significantly more challenging.
Well, hiring people back then, I agree with you, was more challenging, especially for some, and I don't want to say for me, my age was a barrier, only not because of age, because I was not wise to the world. And I had what a lot of entrepreneurs have the belief that, well, everybody's going to be just as excited about the business as I am. So they're going to all want to work really hard.
Yeah, I fall into that trap every day.
Yeah. So it was funny. So that's what kind of got me to there. Then I got married, and I remember on my honeymoon even thinking, okay, I'm making good money, but can I afford to have a wife who stays home with the kids, which is what we talked about, which wound up, she was like, I can't do that, which was great. Right. She's very successful in her own career. But I said, okay, I need to look at how I can grow. And I just happened to come back from my honeymoon. The next week, I'm out re-signing people. And I walked into a place in 1995, this before Starbucks was really big in Dallas. Well, really big at all. But I think they hadn't even come to Dallas, or if they had, they just opened. So nobody knew anything about coffee houses.
Right.
And I walked in to re-sign a customer called Java Joe's. And the guy there was looking through my coupon books, which now were huge. And he's like, wow, how many restaurants do you have? And I go, probably about 200, 300. He goes, well, have you ever thought of doing something different? I'm like, what? And he goes, well, have you ever thought of selling them espresso machines? I'm like, well, what's an espresso machine do? He goes, well, it makes espresso. I said, well, what's an espresso? Well, it goes into like a latte and cappuccino. I'm like, what's a latte and cappuccino? And he's like, well, that's what we do here. And I'm like, oh, I thought y'all sold like bakery goods. And he goes, well, yeah, to go with it. So I had my first latte, and I was like, wow, this is great. I mean, I really liked it. So long and short, it's already long, so no need to be short. I decided, I went home, talked to my wife, and said, you know what, I think that this might be something to do. And I came back and told the guy, look, I'm not here to work for somebody and never have, probably wouldn't be a great employee, but I think, but I would like the sub deal. I would like to buy your equipment at a sub dealer price. So back then you didn't have the internet check pricing. So he sold me equipment at a really bad price. And that I didn't realize that it was really cheap equipment. So I sold a bunch at the beginning, but then I was spending all the time servicing it. And that was a big lesson for me that you got to make a choice, what type of business you want to be in. Because I went to him, I'm like, look, it's always breaking down. He goes, yeah, that's the great thing. You charge for the service trips. That's why it's so great. I'm like, I don't want to be in the service business. I want to be in the sales and in the bigger copy picture. So, and I've always lived by that ever since. So I decided to go out and find the best piece of equipment I could. And there's a much longer story to this one, but I wound up just landing at the time the machine in the industry, repping it. The people in Dallas that were repping it were struggling financially, and they needed a new person. They liked me. I had by accident met the owner of the company, not knowing he was. He liked me. So I wound up getting this really good piece of equipment. And from there, walking into a place, started selling these little espresso machines and seeing that there was as an entrepreneur, you got to hit the street, but you got to be smart too. And one sell to one individual is great, but it's equal amount of work as a sell to a big corporation. And so I saw a little place opening in a mall called the Corner Bakery. I'm like, oh, a bakery. It's going to need an espresso machine, not knowing who owned them at the time. And after a lot of time and struggle, I finally walked into the mall office and said, hey, I've been trying to find, can you just tell me who owns that? I'd like to speak to them about something. They said Brinker International. I'm like, who's Brinker? And the lady's like, Chili's, the largest conglomerate of restaurants in the world at the time they were.
Right.
And I'm like, great, you know what city they're located in? And she goes, yeah, right up the road in Dallas, like five miles up the road, actually 3 miles up the road. So called them up, said, hey, I want to put a machine in. They're like, come on in. So showed up to the meeting and pitched them and some fun little things. But at the end of the day, for the next 13 years, we provided every espresso machine in units to every Maggiano's Macaroni Grill and Corner Bakery in America as they opened. They were opening 2 to 3 a week. So it was great. It was a lot of fun. My wife and I that were semi-retired at that time.
Yes, that is awesome. Home run. Yeah. But it all leads from, leaving the antique shop, starting the coupon book, right? So these are all, we talk a lot about, what is failure? Failure is quitting, and you didn't quit those businesses. You use those as rungs on that ladder, climbing to where you're at today. And I think that's so important for people to understand how business owners rope-a-dope it to the next level, right? Yep. It just keeps chugging along, and I love it.
You can't give up. I mean, and it's tough. And when I say can't give up, I guess you can, but failure is just a frame of mind, an opportunity. And to me, it's also understanding. There's a ton of antique stores, and they wound up being very successful. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right bus to get me to where I wanted to go. So I could have stayed and would have been miserable. And probably would not have done very well for them and as a whole, as a business. But finding the coupon books I really like. Before I had that latte, I had sworn off coffee. I had worked my way through college. And I remember, you wake up, go to school, then I go home, change, go to work a pizza delivery or waiting tables during this span, and then get off around 11 o'clock, go to a place called Tasty Donuts. And I'd have a donut. If you bought one donut with a cup of coffee, it was bottomless coffee. And you sit there and drink the coffee, stay awake until 2, 3 in the morning, doing homework, then go home and repeat. Yeah. And I did that for years. And the coffee was so bad that, I didn't know what good coffee or bad coffee was. I don't think anybody did back then, actually. But I had sworn it off. And then here I am now, heavily in the coffee business. So you never know where life's going to lead you if you let it.
Love it. All right. So this is really your third at bat or big at bat. I'm sure there was some littles along the way that, don't really count as most entrepreneurs have, that, the stuff that they, failed to launch or whatever. But in this process, you partnered with two friends. Are you still friends with them, or are those relationships dead? Like, how is telling your friend, hey, I don't want to be in this partnership anymore, or separating from that is sometimes it goes great, sometimes it's bad. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yes, I'm still friends with the family there and with both. Actually, the one friend who partnered, he chose out because he's like, I can't live like this, because I'm like, well, we'll just have to, eat Roman noodles and things like that for 6 months, and we'll get this. And he's like, whoa. I was looking at we were going to be making thousands of dollars because sort of thing. But yeah, we're still friendly and all that. I don't see them as I don't see see them around and things like that, of course. But as far as friendship, it didn't hurt at all. And I think that it was, my second one with a coupon book. He's went to work for an investment firm, and he's doing pretty good. So I don't think he's regretting it either, sort of thing. So, I think everybody has to find their own path, and it was the right path for me.
Yeah, and I think it's important. A lot of people don't make these decisions in fear of destroying the relationship or having animosity between each other. But I promise you, if you end up walking away, you have a chance at ending the relationship later. But if you stick around, that relationship is going to continue to just weather away. And
yes,
it does nobody good to stick around in those bad situations.
I agree with you. Of course, I know a lot more things now than I did then. But I think cutting the cord as quickly as possible, which I actually did on both of these. It worked out great. He did on the second one, I did on the first one. But I think that it was good. It was good for a long-term part of the relationship because, you got to be honest with yourself, and you're just going to build animosity. Growing larger now by myself, I have a lot of friends who have partnerships in my entrepreneur group that I'm in, all that. And, the thing that I've heard with that part, and if I ever did get in a partnership, I would definitely put a clause in at the beginning of the partnership saying that if anytime somebody wants to buy the other person out, they can make an offer, and then that person gets the opportunity to either accept it or buy or use that offer to buy the other person. That way, you got a nice, safe, nobody's going to try to lowball, because if they lowball, then you automatically have the right to buy them at that lowball price. So that's the one thing that I know I'll put in if I ever do a partnership, which I may again. I'm not against it.
Yeah, I have, well over 30 partners in my different little ventures, and some of them are challenging and some of them are fantastic. So it just, tread lightly, know what you're getting into, and have a good lawyer if you're going to partner with somebody that can really, not that you're trying to get one over on anybody, but you want to make sure that any possible outcome in the future is defined on how you're going to execute on it before you get there. Right. Yeah. So that you just go by what the contract says, and everybody can, this is what we wrote it down in the beginning. We agreed on how we would deal with this separation later. Sure. It's really, really important.
Have the end in mind. And not only that, because we all, just like any marriage, you don't get married thinking, all right, well, we'll stay married for a few months and we'll get a divorce. I mean,
right. you go into it, wide-eyed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
we're going to destroy we're going to take over the world with this new idea that we're going to do is how you go into it. And if that's the only mindset you have, which I've done more times than I can count, if you have partners, somebody's going to end up with the short end of the stick.
Yeah. And it can happen that way. No doubt. It's hard, but if going in that it's a work relationship, and I think, it's having the right personnel, right chemistry, and partnerships that I've seen that have worked is, one is a kind of a visionary sales maybe, and the other one is an ops person and the operation. And when it's that, it really, and people stay in their lanes, boy, it can definitely work so much better. But if you have two that strong suits are the same thing, then Yeah, you're just asking for a challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about your companies today? We've got the Daily Java Bean Coffee Company.
That's right. So Daily Java has been around since 1995. And in short, we are a wholesale distributor of equipment and product to churches and independent cafes all across America. So we'll go in, we have people, I'm sitting in our showroom here. So it's a fully functioning cafe, but it's not open to the public. We got tables and everything. But we'll bring people in often if they're local. If not, I was just in West Virginia this past weekend doing install and training. But, I have a vision. I want to start a cafe. Okay, great. So, and we sat down and we talked about the vision and the business side of things, but then the layout, the equipment needed and all that in order to reach that vision. Because, no need to spend a bunch of money. This machine that I have right behind me is a Black Eagle. It lists for $30,000, $32,000. There's no church that should ever buy that. And not many cafes that should buy something like that unless there's a certain need. So, we don't go in and try to sell people the top equipment. But so we do equipment. We have a little 25 steps to success program that we work people through. And that's our secret sauce. And then once we do it, we do the training. We then sell them the coffee, the tea, the cups, the lids, the sauces, the syrup. So basically weekly we get orders. And that's what I really want are those products that we sell every single week, the orders that come in every week. That's what I build my business on. And quite frankly, setting up and teaching people how to run a successful business and make sure they succeed is kind of my lead into making sure that we then have them as these long-term customers, even though we don't sign contracts with people. Everybody, I'd like to think we do such a good job that they want to sign up. So that's sort of our focus in what we do. And then King's Coffee Company, we used to have a partnership with the company out of Houston, great company and all that, and so forth. But we've grown to such a size, and we finally moved into a large enough warehouse space where we could bring coffee in-house. So we have here on site a coffee roastery as well. And we named it King's Coffee Company. For the Christian side of things, King, because King of Kings, but also for just secular side, it's, just King's Coffee, and that's the reason why you see the machine behind me. I don't know if you can tell, but it's purple. Our roaster, I had them paint it purple because it's the color of royalty. So that's sort of the thing. And we only handle on our coffee side. I was having a discussion with someone looking to start a coffee business themselves, roastery themselves. We only handle specialty grade coffee, which is basically competition grade coffee. And there's a rating system in the coffee industry. So all this I had to learn. I knew nothing. Like I said, I had my first latte. I didn't even know what an espresso machine was, or espresso, when I first started this business. So It's all been learned over the decades. And a lot more I need to learn. Yeah.
I want to try to wrap my head around what it is that you're doing, because it almost sounds like a franchise, but you're not doing a franchise. You're helping. So do you give that service away for no charge, the 25 steps, and you help them start their company?
Yep. It's all part of the package. Now, I must admit, for the, when businesses hear about these things. So I first started just giving away. And that's how we attracted customers. And we have a breakdown of the equipment, each piece of equipment, all that. Well, I started running into people going, hey, that's great. We're so excited. And we would make them we started first having them do a $2,000 deposit, because we're having people ask tons of questions. And then a couple went off, did their own thing. And we're like, okay, that we spent a lot of time. And though we want to help, we need to also be conscious of our own time. So I started requiring $2,000 deposit that goes fully towards the cost of the equipment. So that way we know who's real and who's not. And so, and then we have equipment packages. So that made my life easier and our life easier. Instead of trying to bid out everybody, we started just doing a package, because for the most part, most people fit in one of three. But just like buying a car, oh, do you want leather seats? Okay, that's going to be. Do you want this machine upgrade? Then it's this much more. If you like this, it's this much more. So it has some upgrade features to it. So it's made it very simple for us to be able to bid people quickly. But the big thing that I found out and I did was I removed the line item pricing, and I just have one price in at the bottom, because I was having people come in and say, well, I could find the same refrigerator or the same ice machine or whatever for $10 less online. Will you match it? And all of a sudden, boom, I realized they were finding some things for $10, $50 here or there, maybe 50, that they want to match, but they're never coming to say, hey, your espresso machine price is about $300 less than close competition. Can I pay you more? And it never happened once. So I realized, what, I'm not going to keep doing it. And even when people are like, well, our board needs to see this separate out, I go, well, then I'm probably not the right fit for you, because this reason why and what will happen. We want to be able to help, and included in this price is our consulting and everything. So no. And if they walk away, then it's probably a good deal. When every single client that has ever been in trouble from the get-go has been in trouble the whole way through. I dump them as quickly as I can, or don't dump them.
They come in bad, they generally leave bad.
Yeah, I encourage them to find somebody that fits what they need a lot better. Is a nice way to put that.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I'm a little curious now. So somebody could come to you today. I could call you tomorrow and say, hey, Mike, I'm a small business owner in St. Louis, and I want to open a coffee shop, and you'll cradle to grave me almost like a franchise would.
Yeah, exactly. It would make sense for us to probably get into the franchise mode, except for we've never been in operations of a cafe. I have been approached by a couple of groups, but about possibly doing it, but then it doesn't necessarily make sense for them either, because I'm already helping them. But I don't want to be in that realm, at least not right yet. I have thought about setting up my own cafes. But so basically, if you call St. Louis, we'd probably do this over the internet, and then I get the plans of your space, and we draw out the plans and work with your architect and builder and make sure it's all right. Like in West Virginia and California, all these places that we go, we have obviously in Dallas and Texas a lot, but we have a ton that are outside. And I don't meet the people in person generally until that time that we arrive to do the install and the training. So it's kind of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
And again,
I think that's great. I love the niche. It's so important to understand what Mike has done in the marketing side of things, right? He's created a massive amount of value. To buy a franchise, you're looking at, I don't know what a Starbucks runs, 300?
Well, Starbucks, it would be millions, but a franchise on a lot of these Baker Brothers or Brew Brothers people and things like that, are 300 to $500,000.
Right. So it's expensive to come in, and you're partnered with this other company that at the end of the day, they sold you their product, right? The franchise business is not the storefront business. It's two different companies, and they sold you this thing with all these grand things, and they're getting anywhere between 1% and 12% of your revenue, depending on the contract, right? So it is for some people. It's not for me, but it seems like this is a really great alternative to a franchise. But you get all the support. One benefit that you get when you open a franchise is immediate buy-off from SBA and the banks. If somebody's partnering with you because you have a track record, is that a similar kind of experience that you've seen with the banks for the financing?
It's funny you say that because I have been asked to speak with banks and to write the bio of the business multiple times. to be presented to the banks so that way they understand who we are and why we're a good partner for them to have. So I guess the short answer would be apparently yes, that I know we've been used multiple times for that, and apparently in a positive way.
I just know there's a lot of people that want to start a business and they don't know how to get the capital, and they may have had an idea and gone to the bank a couple of times and the bank's like, no. But if you go to the bank and you have a proven plan, a track record that somebody else has executed, and something like a 25-step process that you're going to be implementing, the chances of you getting the money from the bank astronomically higher. Yeah, way, way higher in that realm. So I absolutely love what you're doing for the small business owner in our country and in Texas. You know, my understanding of Texas is they do everything. They try to do everything big, right? So you start with the right mindset for sure. Yeah. But you've also taken another path and niched your product down, right? So you specialize in churches.
Yeah, we are known by others to be the church coffee house leaders. We have built a lot of church cafes. So obviously other people out there doing it and so forth. It's just shocking though to me on how little architects know about laying out a cafe. So that's often what we have is the issue that we'll come into a project sometimes mid-project, and we're having to try to rearrange the flow because they went to the local Starbucks, saw how they did, and go, well, this is how. And we call those quick hit cafes. We do some schools as well, but schools and churches, you got nobody, and then all of a sudden, sermon's over, the bell rings, whatever, and you got a line of 30 to 60 people, literally. And you need to be able to move that. So layout and flow is so important. Whereas our independent cafes, we don't have to worry about that flow as much. It's still very important. Don't get me wrong. Placement of equipment in groupings needs to be together. So that way you're not walking back and forth just to make one drink. But it's not going to be as deadly because at best you're having 2 to 3, 4 people in line. I mean, you walk into a Starbucks, and, most of the time, if it's not an airport where they have a captive audience, it's only going to be, 4 to 5 people max in the line. So that's sort of the cool little difference is how to lay these out. But we've really run with the niche on the church side. I've written multiple articles on building a culture of giving through coffee and how to run a cafe and so forth. And I speak on their different conventions and things like that as well with little breakout sessions and so forth. So I just really like it. It makes me feel like I'm making an impact in the world because so many of the churches use their proceeds to give back to the community. So it's my way of, at least feeling good about doing an impact there. And then on the flip side of that coin, independent cafes, individuals, it's just so cool being able to help a fellow entrepreneur, with their dream and their vision and all that on building and running a cafe. It's a lot of fun doing both sides.
Absolutely. You get to meet all kinds of new people all the time. They're in there quick, lots of turnover. I enjoy the business. I've not ever owned a cafe, but I've owned a couple similar businesses throughout my lifetime. So I think it's really, really fun. And I love that you're doing it non-franchise, that you're helping them, that you're giving this value to the community and not asking anything in return, but it pays off in 10x or more.
I would say the vast majority of our new customers are recommendations of our current customers, come from recommendations. So, it's really good. And plus, we're all talking about recession and when it's going to come, not if, but when, and things like that. The last one that hit, I remember sitting around and Oprah came out with her, and that was back when everybody was watching Oprah. And she came out with her top 10 ways to make it through the recession. Her number one was give up your daily latte. And I remember screaming at the TV, you're killing us all. And it was crazy. Not a dip at all. We didn't see any real dip in the coffee.
Well, drugs and alcohol are recession proof.
Exactly. It
right?
really
And that
is.
caffeine is an addictive substance. So
Yeah.
it's legal in this country. So you might as well sell it. But
I mean, that's absolutely is. So, I mean, we're having more coffee houses open right now than I have ever had that I've ever experienced. And
Right.
independent cafes, all that. And I think that, they're just, everybody's going with coffee now. The recession
Right.
actually really helped the coffee business. The pandemic, I'm sorry, really helped the coffee companies a lot because people couldn't go to bars to hang out. They couldn't go, and coffee houses were the first ones to really be able to do something. And people just developed a new pattern. And so why go to the bar and hang out now that they're all open? Let's just keep going to the cafe, coffee shop, and things like that. So it's really benefited a lot of people in that way, in a sad way, but it is what it is in the business world.
To give a little context here, today is June 29th, so we're a couple days away from the end of the second quarter of 2022, and it's likely that they're getting ready to announce that we're officially in a recession in a couple of days. And this episode is going to air after that, but I think everybody's predicting that we're in a recession in the third quarter of 2022. And there's a lot of predictions on what happens if that, right, when these numbers come out, if GDP drops 2 quarters in a row, then we'll officially be in a recession. And historically, that means more micro store for the brick and mortar mom and pop. Now, we've never been in a situation like we're in right now where we're kind of going into a recession. We've got this new war going on, Russia and Ukraine. We're a really divided country. So post-pandemic, all of these different things. But historically, we go to like more micro storefronts or more, each storefront sells more things, right? You end up with barber shops that have videos, just all kinds of crazy stuff because these business owners have to capitalize any way that they can to pay their rent. They got to sell more stuff.
Yeah.
I know in St. Louis, there's a trend right now going on of these, and I can't believe it's taken this long, of these like parking lot coffee shops. These little, like almost trailers, like drive through in the parking lots of bigger strip malls. Is that something you're seeing happening nationwide?
Yeah, that's something happening nationwide, that more and more of these little huts and or mobile drive-through units that, some are fixed and others are literally just being able to, are trailers that they redone. I've even, there's kind of a big thing to get for a while there, the containers and build out a container and things like that. That looks super cool. And all that, it's just become more and more of a thing. I mean, it's where you got a small footprint and a high volume. Even if the volume, profit margin in coffee. I mean, I don't want to upset anybody who's doing a daily coffee, with the amount of money. But there's a good profit margin out of it. Now, in all fairness, you got your most expensive part is labor. You got, equipment that costs a ton of money and things like that. But yeah, it definitely has a lot of options. And that's the reason why we've kind of expanded, we get little boba teas now. And we're carrying new products that our clients are asking us, hey, can you start carrying this? Can you look into getting that? So we carry multiple brands, multiple items. And we're always bringing on new stuff to try to help people out. But I think you're right. I think, as a recession hits or not, there's two ways to handle it. And one is to live in fear, and that can be a slow death. The other is to strike because it's an opportunity. I know during this pandemic, I had a competitor in town who chose poorly on how they were going to run their business through the pandemic, a lot of fear-based. And I took the other route. I decided we're all in. We're definitely going all in. We're going to jump while we can and really take it to the next level. And my business just really took off. And it really did. It was a big difference. And I'm not trying to tell people, hey, go and, risk everything and all that, but it was a calculated move, no doubt, on my part. But I knew what the products could do, and I just needed to perform. We needed to perform here. I had a lot of faith in my in my personnel to be able to pull that off. So it definitely helped a lot. But it'll be fun to see, or not fun. It'll be interesting to see what happens and how businesses react.
Yeah, and to me, right now, or at least the next 3 to 6 months, post pandemic, the barrier to entry on negotiating for real estate in the commercial space is lower than it's ever been, right? So this particular point in time, I think, is if you want to have a storefront, mom and pop, Main Street business, the opportunities and the barrier to entry to have that brick and mortar business are not low today. I mean, it's still a commitment, but I'm seeing landlords not requiring the personal guarantees as much, or offering more free rent if you're going to do the build out on your own up front. So I think all of these things are lining up that if you wanted to, and Mike's doing this great service of helping you get started with your coffee business if you're buying his equipment. So I think more and more that's going to be bigger and bigger opportunities for people that want to execute on them.
Yeah, I think so. And, just like the last recession, depression that we had, whatever you want to call it, a lot of people went off and finally started living their dream. I've always dreamed of doing this or that. And so many great small businesses came out of that time period. And I'm hoping the same will happen here. You're right. With right now, depending on your market, there's a lot of people who just want to have some people in the storefront. And that, and it is kind of a low investment. I mean, don't get me wrong, the equipment can cost some money, but for the most part, we're setting up cafes full on with all the equipment for somewhere in the 30s of thousands for all the equipment. Of course, that's before you build the cabinetry. But like this cabinetry behind us with the marble top and everything, I think that all in cost us like about $7 or $8 grand, because it's a shell. There's no cabinets under the front part, which you shouldn't, and things like that. So there's a lot of things. It's a fake a brick wall. It's a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch brick that you put up, so it looks like a full brick. There's so many things that you can do to make your place stand out, whether you're a coffee house or anything. I think this is the time to really stress the fact that how you're unique. It's not the time to try to say how you're just like your competition. This is when you should always be trying to prove your uniqueness, but this would definitely be that time to show why you deserve the business over your competition.
Absolutely. I think it's really fun. And I think under $100 grand, you could start a shop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that to have a storefront business under $100 grand with the margins that I know that coffee bring.
Yeah.
My problem is I jump on too many opportunities, and it's like scratching my head here. So I think it's fantastic. Who is your I know you can serve anybody, any business owner that wants to, and you've leaned into the churches, right? But who is your ideal client if if you're looking for somebody and somebody's watching this, they're like, man, I'm scratching my head. Who is it that you want to pick up the phone and give you that call?
From a church side of things, generally it's one of the pastors or operations person. But if they're doing for a full cafe, we often tell people, like, at least if you want to be profitable, we have found about 400 people attending on a weekend or a week is that magic number. Once you get above that, it should be able to set up and be able to make you money. But we also do just coffee. And, we have some churches as small as 25 people who are buying our King's Coffee, because we do a discount for churches and only churches on the coffee. We provide them a discount on the King's Coffee, but a little off there. But on the independent cafes, that's for anybody really looking to who's serious about building a cafe and building that. And it doesn't have to, like you're saying, doesn't have to be expensive. We have a rule that I published, the 10 do's and don'ts. And there are some do's and don'ts that you need to do or don't do in order to be successful. But you do those 10 do's and don'ts, you're going to be pretty well on your way if you have the right location. You know, like they always say, every business, the 3 most important things: location, location, location. So if you have that, then you're good. But I tell you, the difference to that now that's kind of weird is, you know, the internet, Yelp and Google and all that. I mean, people now are searching and they're bringing up every coffee house in its area. And and I do this, and then I select the one with the highest rating. Right. Okay, that's when I'll go try, sort of thing.
Well, that's how you're going to get anybody that you have to figure in any community. 80% of the people live or work there, and 20% of the people are transient at any point in time.
Yep.
And there's no way to get them. Either they see you or you're on that Google map, right?
Sure.
That's the 2 ways that you're going to get their business, and that's a huge number of people, right? Especially for a company like a coffee shop, your drop-ins, the guy that comes once can be a huge uptick to your business if you know how to cater to that person or let them find you when they want their product, right?
Yeah. And for any food company, I would say, since we're talking about the guy coming once and we want him to come back over and over, whether you're cafe or any food, I often say this, I'll go in during training and say, who here has heard of Starbucks? Raise your hand. All the hands go up. Okay, keep your hand up if you think Starbucks serves the best coffee in the world. All the hands go down. And okay, so why is it that there's Starbucks on every corner and they're expanding and they're making a ton of money? What is it that they do that does that? And we'll go around and guessing all that, and ultimately they get it. It's consistency, and that's the same with any business. You have to be consistent, no matter who's answering the phone, who's making the coffee, who's serving the sandwich, or doing the auto repair or whatever. You have to be consistent. And if you build that consistency, that's what builds that brand loyalty. And I can't stress that enough. I have found that to be the biggest thing. That's something that I harp on ours. At our office is we got to be consistent in everything that we do. So I agree with you. Make that one-time customer come back over and over again.
Yeah, that's huge, but also capitalize on the guy that's just traveling through.
Sure.
Try to get them both, but that guy that's there every day, he's your bread. He's paying the mortgage.
Yeah,
right? Or she's paying the mortgage, right? There's zero doubt about that. So, Mike, I'm going to go a little bit over the hour here because there's another topic that you put inside your bio that I really wanted to lean in on a little bit. Sure. And, you hit the $1 million revenue mark and you joined an EO group.
Yep.
Right? Can you tell us a little bit about that group that you joined? And, not only obviously you cater that or put that as part of like a catalyst moment for you on your growth would open a lot of doors, but can you tell us a little bit more about why having a community, what the EO is, and why that is so important to you and how it helps you grow?
Sure, and thanks. EO is an entrepreneurs organization. It's the largest entrepreneur-only organization in the world. And it has over 200 chapters. Dallas has chapters. St. Louis has a great chapter. Chapters to Dubai, China, India, you name it, all over Europe and Africa, everywhere. And so what it is a short answer is it's a collection of crazy people who thought it was a good idea to open their own business. But in reality, EO is for founders and business owners, either or, often the same, that have reached revenues of $1 million or more are invited to join. And it's really that. It's about for me, it was about finding my tribe, about finding the people that were just like me. As business owners, we all have the same, I don't care your business. We all have the same issues. We all have employee issues. We all have finance issues and making payroll issues at some point. And all these things, we all have it. And it's basically a network of people that you're there to build experiences from and learn from. It's not a networking group in the sense of, you don't walk around handing out your card trying to sell. Actually, you'll get kicked out if you do that. But with that said, like in Dallas, and actually I've done a lot of global work for them. So across the world, I have a lot of friends. They all know I'm in the coffee business. So whenever they're opening a restaurant, want some equipment or a cafe, I get calls from them all day long saying, hey, I'd rather work with the EO member than a non-EO member. But it's a really great organization. I can't say enough great about it. It really helped me because, like I said, I didn't know anything. I was just some idiot kid who was out there making my way through, trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, I didn't work for somebody else at all ever. So I didn't even get that sort of a year's worth of understanding on how to be a good manager, how things run. So I made up everything, and that wasted a lot of my time, whole lot of time. So having a EO, they have programs that really help you that are all included. Monthly meetings that are great, but the big thing is they have a thing called a forum, and that's where you have 6 to 10 members that meet once a month or half a day. And though that might seem like, oh, I can't give up half a day, is one of those things that you look forward to. I mean, I had 4 members fly in from Hawaii on a family vacation to Dallas to make the forum meeting and fly back out because they didn't want to miss the meeting. Now, true, they would have gotten fined, but a lot less than the flight there and back because it's that much respect going on. We're there to work on each other's business and person as a whole. Now, it's not just about how to make more money, how to build, but as a human being, as in my case, a family man and a father, for those who are in that space. Just it's I can't say enough good things about it. And then we also have EO has a thing called the Accelerator Program, which is for businesses 250 to $1 million. And it's people, and they also meet once a month, but then they have a facilitator. I happen to be one, got selected by EO to do it, that goes and talks for a learning day on either cash, execution, strategy, or people. And once a quarter, we cover those topics for a half a day and how to become better acquainted with knowing your numbers, building more. One of the things that I say to my groups, right now I'm doing Chicago and Virginia Beach as well as New Orleans. I just picked up, but I'll go in and I'll ask almost every time, who here has not raised their prices in the last 6 months? And if a hand goes up, I want a commitment that you're going to raise your price because right now, why not? And I'm not saying that you try to take advantage, but if pricing is going up on you, you've got to raise your price or you're not going to be in business very long. And everybody knows it. I know the biggest fear is, oh, I'm going to lose customers. And rarely does that ever happen. So people understand and all that. I'm not telling you just to go and, hey, I haven't had any price increase. I'm just going to do it. But, to a degree, if you're going to, now's time to do it. Trying to do it during the middle of a recession might not be the smartest time to then do it.
You have any retail business at all, your prices just went up.
Oh, yeah.
I know one of my businesses is retail, and almost every shipping's doubled, and everything else has gone up by 20-30%. So it's and that's the big thing that we really get to stress that if your cost of goods went from $1 to $1.20. And you're selling for $2, how much should you go up? It shouldn't be 20 cents because then you're just barely treading. It needs to be 20%. You need to go up to 240 then and things like that. And it's just, some of these things that, being in a group of fellow entrepreneurs who are going through the same struggles and who will hold you accountable. And that's probably one of the biggest things, if I'm being honest. And actually, since you said that, if your price goes up 20%, you can't just raise your cost goes up by 20%. You can't raise your price by 20%. And at the bottom of this video, I'm not going to explain it now. I'll put the difference between profit, markup, and margin in the details of this because it can get you in a ton of trouble if you use the wrong phrase with the bankers.
Yes, it can.
If you think you've doubled your price, that you got 100% margin, you're wrong. and the bank will catch you, and it can be, I thought I was a grown man getting yelled at when I made that mistake, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a bad one to make. So
it took me forever to learn numbers and learn my numbers. Like I said, I did not know. There's a Greg Crabtree has a book out there called Simple Numbers. And it's great for anybody that wants to really kind of understand numbers and reading your P&L and your balance sheet, why it's important and what those numbers really mean and all that.
Okay.
What's
the name of that book one more time?
Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree.
Simple Numbers.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll throw that at the bottom here too. I'll pick it up and give it a quick read. Just go. I'm always looking for new stuff to get me through the airlines. So, Mike, thank you so much. I enjoyed it. I think I hope that if you're watching this show and you're thinking about opening something, give Mike a call. If a coffee shop might be up your alley. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
Other than it's a battle, but it's so worth it. I've told my own children that whatever you do, no matter what, do not become an entrepreneur. Whatever you do, if you want to be rich, be a banker, be anything else. However, if it's your passion, if it's what drives you, then by all means, be an entrepreneur and don't ever lose that passion. And I live by that. I believe it to be true that entrepreneurs, we make the world go round. I mean, at the end of the day, we are the ones that make the impact in our state, our city, our countries. And, I can't say enough great things about God love entrepreneurs. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
I very much appreciate it. And what you told your kids, there's only 3 things that you can do with your time and money, or your money. You can spend it, you can save it, or you can risk it. And, I'd rather risk it than do the other 2.
Yeah.
So,
I'm with you.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Mike. And I hope you have a great day. And I hope we get to talk again soon.
I hope so too. Thanks again. I appreciate your time. Have a great day, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye. That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.